Hey guys, Midway Piper here. Hope all is going well. Just wanted to talk about a couple of things today. Um, First of all, seeing the video of Rudy and the tunnel take together, that was great to watch, and I'm glad you guys got to meet up. That looked like it was a good time. I'm glad that worked out, that you guys were able to meet up. So that's cool. If you haven't checked out the video, it is on Rudy Verkreisen's channel, so check that out if you haven't yet. It was great seeing the comparison between your pipe sizes. That was pretty good. But yeah, I definitely tend more towards the nose warmer style than the church warden. But that was pretty funny to see the bowl sizes too. It was a huge difference. So that was cool. Real quick before we get into the main topic of today, we're sort of leading into it. Housekeeping. This is my Hardcastle Argyle. You guys probably know this one. It's the Argyle 149. But in it, I have some Billy Bud Blonde. This is a tin I got a long time ago. And when I got this, I'll be honest, part of the reason I got it is because it's part of the loosely the Herman Melville series that they do. So Billy Budd is a story by Herman Melville, and then you've got the Moby Dick thing and all that. But I wasn't 100% sure on what this blend was all about, but I ordered it anyways. So it's a blend of bright Virginia flake, white burley, chopped cigar leaf, and a touch of Perique. And when I got it, I was very much more into the aromatics. Much more so than into the tobacco taste. And I have moved away quite a bit from aromatics. I still enjoy them every now and then. But that is not necessarily a draw for me anymore. So I wanted to come back and try this blend again. And it's actually pretty good. I remember when I first got it, I was very disappointed in it. But again, I was looking for aromatic. And as you can see, it's almost a full tin. I probably only had like 1 or 2 bowls. Well, yeah, a couple of bowls out of this. So taste buds do change. And she's pretty good. It's still a bit on the, still a little rough around the edges. I wouldn't necessarily call it really smooth. Like when I think of like GLP's mixtures, they tend to be a little more smooth, more well rounded out. Um, there's definitely something a little harsh in this one, but it's not bad. Anyways, so along the line of changes in taste buds, I just want to do a quick investing update because I've made some big changes in my investment strategy, I guess, or yeah, over the last couple of weeks. Made a pretty big change the other day, so um, I keep things pretty simple as far as investing um, in my retirement accounts. And by accounts, I mean I have two. Um, neither myself or my wife have jobs that offer 401ks or at least a matched 401k in any regard. Um, I have access to a 401k, but no match. And I don't know who the hell manages it. I don't really have interest. Some random person I don't know trying to manage my retirement future. So I don't contribute. So we each have Roth IRAs. And keep things pretty simple. For my wife's Roth, and I do all of the investing stuff. She's not involved in the least bit with any of it, nor does she care to. It's not a I'm overbearing kind of thing. Um, so I have her in a simple S&P 500 fund, S&P Growth Fund, and I have her in QQQM, which is more of a sort of a tech-heavy ETF, growth ETF. And that's it, 2 stocks, that's it. And so every month, or every year, we will max that out, and just sort of, split it relatively 50-50 between those 2 stocks and hers. And if you don't know, it's a maximum contribution of about $7,000 a year per Roth IRA. So when I say max it out, it's $7,000 a year. My Roth IRA is a not quite 50-50. It's about there, I guess, now. Split between a great pairing of funds, SCHD and SCHG. So those are Schwab dividends. D is a dividend fund, and G is a growth fund. So that's those 2 stocks. SCHD is a very popular dividend ETF, if you're not familiar. You'd probably struggle to find someone who qualifies themselves as a dividend investor that does not have money in SCHD. Is it kind of like a little cult following? Sure, but they reevaluate their ETF every year. So, and then SCHG is a growth fund, so very similar to the QQQM that my wife's fund is in. And again, max that out every year to the tune of about $7,000. Our taxable accounts, though, so these are non-retirement funds, which is where the majority of our money is. I've changed strategies several times with it. I've got some old purchases in there that have done phenomenal. So we have held Microsoft, Amazon, Apple. We've held those three for a very long time. And they have done us very, very well. All the dividends that they bring in have always been reinvested for years now. So those funds have done great. Those stocks, I should say. Other ones I've played with quite a bit. And when I said I made some changes recently, I really narrowed down our stake into two main fields: tech and midstream energy sector. So tech is pretty self-explanatory. So just to list a few that we hold. We do hold a stake in a Vanguard Tech Fund ETF, VGT. So that's just to sort of capture a lot of the VGT, SCHG, and QQQM are three ETFs. And those sort of capture, of course, the big tech trends, but also a lot of the smaller companies that I don't want to have to try to keep track of. You know, if one's doing poorly and getting rid of them and whatnot, the ETFs take care of that. So those funds are not big dividend payers in any way, shape, or form. Reason being, their purpose is continued growth. So I'm okay with that, but almost every one of my stocks still does pay a dividend of sorts. I have one stock that does not, which I guess I'll lump together with the tech fund. So the individual tech stocks that I hold, in addition to those ETFs. And I hold these individual holdings in addition to those ETFs because they're companies that I feel very strongly about. So like I mentioned, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon. Over this year actually, I started a decent position in Google. I thought, and I still kind of think, that their stock is probably the most undervalued out of the big tech stocks. In addition, I do hold a very little bit of NVIDIA stock in comparison to my portfolio. As a percentage of my portfolio total, a very small portion of single NVIDIA stock. I'm still on the fence if I want to hold on to that as an individual company or not, because it is so heavily involved in all the ETFs. So I'm still on the fence if I'm going to hold that as a single stock or not, or if I should reallocate those funds. And then I think the other single stock that I own is Palantir. And I got into Palantir when it was in the 30s, I believe, $30 a share, somewhere around there. And it's currently like 179 or 180, somewhere around there. I've done very good with that stock. Palantir is the only one, I believe, that I hold that does not pay any sort of dividend at all. It's done so well for me as a growth stock, I hold on to it still. Again, realistically, there will be a day in the near future where I probably sell out of my single holding of that and move that into my ETF, probably the VGT fund. I think that's pretty much it by way of big tech kind of stuff. There's a lot of talk of companies like ASML and, of course, Meta, Tesla, things like that. I held Tesla stock for a while, and then I sold it. I think I've mentioned in previous videos that I don't like having money invested in stuff that Elon Musk is involved in because it's so volatile. That being said, Tesla is involved in every one of those ETFs, so it's covered, but it helps to lessen the volatility of it. I guess I should also say that I am not interested in trading, being a day trader. I want to build this portfolio to a point where I can sort of set it and forget it. I still find this all very fun and interesting, but in all reality, there will be a day again when I lose interest. In all reality, I expect that I will lose interest in the whole keeping tabs on the market kind of stuff and don't care anymore and just sort of forget about it all. And I want to make sure I have a strong portfolio that'll do what it needs to do. So taking some of the volatility out of it would eventually be a good plan. So yeah, that's pretty much all of that. The other day I sold out of 3 different stocks. I sold out of Walmart, I sold out of American Express, and I sold out of Manulife Financial. Walmart and Amex, I had at one point sort of handpicked with my financial planner, and Manulife was something that he put me in, and it did okay for me. I didn't sell any of those 3 at a loss, but they don't really, Walmart being the exception. The dividend that Walmart pays is very small. And they don't necessarily show the same growth that a company like Amazon does. So it wasn't really going to, I don't think, going to move the needle for me as much as I would have liked. So that was that one. Amex, again, very small dividend. An okay growth stock, but not great. Again, I think I could do better. Manulife is an international financial agency. They had the best of the dividends. It was around 4%. The stock had some decent growth on it. But the thing that really threw me off about it when I finally started paying attention is when I watched dividends come in. So I had reached a point where I would get quarterly, I'd make about $60 in dividends from Manulife. The problem with it, though, is that it's technically, Homebase is a Canadian company. And so I would lose like $20 of that. as a sort of like a foreign transaction fee every time I got paid. So I wasn't getting that 4% yield. So I sold that off as well. And I put all of that money, almost all of that money, into a single stock called Texas Pacific Land. TPL is their ticker name. And Texas Pacific Land, they are one of the largest landowners in the state of Texas. And they essentially own land and they lease it out to oil companies who then come on their land and drill for oil. And they receive royalties from those oil companies. And then over the last several years, they've been building up a water business. And so they provide water for these oil companies to do their drilling, but also they then take that water, clean it up, and sell it back to those oil companies. So their stock took a bit of a hit. It was trading at a peak of $1,700 a share. And when I learned about this company a couple weeks ago, it was down in the 800s. And I have full optimism that their stock price will go back up. They are essentially a cash printing company. So long as there's oil to drill, companies will pay them, and they will pay you as a shareholder. So they are not a high dividend company, but I bought about 13 shares of stock in that company. And then the remaining money I sunk into a midstream oil company that I already held, HESM. And then just a couple of days ago, I sold out of, yesterday actually, I sold out of one other company I was on the fence with, which was Main Street Capital. And they are essentially in the business of lending money to smaller businesses. And I initially got into them because they paid monthly dividends. Which, when I set up my dividend fund, that was something I wanted to do, was sort of bolster. I was interested in bolstering that number building up my monthly dividends as much as I could. And so that's why I bought them as a monthly dividend payer. I've been on the fence about holding them for quite a while, and I sold out of them yesterday. And I put all of that money into another oil midstream company, MPLX. So Hess Midstream, their primary oil company they worked with was Hess, which was recently bought out by Chevron. And MPLX is primarily works with Marathon Petroleum. And these midstream companies, if you've never heard of an energy midstream company, they are essentially responsible for the pipelines of getting oil from location X to location Y. That's pretty much their job. So to get oil from where it's being drilled to the refineries. And these companies work, for the most part, with contracts through these companies. So it's less volatile than owning Chevron or Marathon or ExxonMobil or Phillips Conoco. And they also pay great dividends. So around 7.5 or so, upper sixes to 7.5% dividends as their starting dividend. So that's kind of nice. You don't get quite as much volatility as you would from the oil companies. You get a higher dividend than you would from the oil companies. So every quarter now, between my holdings in Hess Midstream and MPLX, every quarter I'll bring in around $500. And I have all that money set to reinvest back into those companies. And those things will those companies will be something very good and productive in the long run. Even now, quite frankly. So my recreated portfolio is still very growth oriented. More growth oriented than it used to be. And then, so it's a mix of primarily tech and oil midstream. And then I'll just sort of lump the Texas specific in with the oil midstreams, because they're not producers themselves necessarily, but they require oil industry and natural gas. All these companies are natural gas as well. And the reason I focused on these two things, tech and oil midstream, is because, we talk about our national debt and how it's getting so out of hand and out of control. And really the most effective way that we could, as a country, could do something about that is by increasing our exports as a country. And I don't think that we're going to bring a lot of big industry back into this country at this point. It's still price prohibitive in a lot of cases, even with the tariffs in place. So I look at what we as a country can really export to the world, that the world would have interest in from us. And the two big things, there's of course, the war machine. That's a big one. And I'm not involved in that directly. There's some coverage through my ETFs, but I don't hold any single stocks with that. But the other two big exports that this country is going to have to get behind are going to be technology and energy. Energy is going to be required for their technology to continue to grow. As a country, we still have a very fragile grid. And as technology continues to grow, we need more power. As people continue buying electric cars and electric water pumps and heaters and well pumps for their houses and all that kind of stuff, something is needed to produce that electricity. And I still think, as a country, oil and natural gas are going to be our best options in all reality. So I see an increase in that happening in our country, and obviously with, a Trump presidency, that's been a priority. And oil prices have been going down, but these midstream companies are going up. So, yeah, that's kind of why I rearranged my portfolio the way I have. Um, the oil midstreams are a great dividend producer, so I feel really good about still making sure that I'm bringing in, dividends. Down the road, come retirement, I will move much more out of growth into dividend funds. But for the time being, I think I can make a lot more by being involved in these growth tech companies at the moment than just sticking with sort of a dividend portfolio, solely dividend portfolio. So that's where I'm at with all that stuff. Just sort of as a way of, closing this video out. Just want to give you guys a couple of resources. If any of this seems interesting to you, you want some more perspective, and people that, some channels that do this stuff, talk about this stuff, I want to give 3 suggestions of channels that I follow. And I'll sort of give you the flow of all of it. So the first channel, and I'll tag all 3 of these channels down below. The first one, the channel that really got me into the importance of dividend investing, I've mentioned him on this channel several times before, Ryan Williams. Great dividend investing channel. So I would highly recommend you check out his stuff. The other one is related in a way. Ari Gutman. He's really brought to my attention the importance of the tech future of this country, and the importance in being involved in a lot of those growth companies. Just so you're aware, Ryan Williams is not a tech investor. That's not his cup of tea. So if that's what you're looking for, you will not find that with Ryan. But Ryan and Ari, they also do a weekly show together called The Deep End. And that's a great one. It's great to see those two really sort of, because they have such different investment strategies at this point. It's really cool to see their discussions, and helps to sort of set things, sort of shape mindset, I guess you could say. So that's the Deep End channel. And then the last one, and I've got to give pretty much all the credit here, Dividend Data. He has really opened my eyes to the whole energy midstream company thing. So the reason I am involved in Hess Midstream, MPLX, and Texas Pacific Land, he is the sole reason I got involved in those 3 companies. Watching his videos about them and doing a little bit of my own research on those companies. So yeah, those are the couple of channels that I would highly recommend. It's also interesting to see, so jumping back to Ari real quick, he's really been paring his holdings down significantly. So he used to have a larger portfolio, more variety of stocks, and he's really been narrowing his number of holdings way down. And so that's been sort of cool to see. That's had a huge impact on my recent decisions as well. I was just picking up any stock for a while that sounded interesting. I think I had upwards of 13 different holdings. No, not 13, 30 different holdings. And I've really sort of pared that way back. I think I'm closer to about 15 right now, and still looking at how I can sort of pare that down even from that. So, yeah, I'll link all those channels down below. If you're interested in more about this, you can feel free to check that out. That's it. It's been a very long video, so I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.